All right, guys, first pro tip. Open up eclipse.ini. That's going to be located where your Eclipse install directory is. And you're going to want to bump up the amount of RAM that Eclipse uses. So this first line here is the minimum amount of RAM that Eclipse will use. I specify it to 8 gigs of RAM. So let's say you have 16 gigs of RAM in your system. What you can do is do Control-Alt-Delete, go to the task manager, and just take a quick look at your performance to see if you have enough. So I have 24 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs is more, I have more than enough for 8 gigs to dedicate towards Eclipse. Okay, so that's the minimum amount that it'll use. This is the maximum amount that it'll use. You could specify more to let it go up higher. I just like to keep it at 8 gigs exactly because I have other IDEs that I'm allocating RAM to as well, and I want to make sure that I don't exceed the amount of RAM on my system because then it's going to get really slow in my system. So we'll just keep it like that. Next, you should have this already set, which is the location to where your Java JDK is on your computer. Okay, let's launch this, and we see it runs nice and speedy, and that's a benefit of giving it lots of RAM to use. And keep in mind, I also have video editing software running at the same time of this, and it's still performing quite fast. All right, so a couple things. First off, this was an application we wrote in another tutorial on my channel. So go look for the tic-tac-toe tutorial if you're interested in that. Let's talk about some pro tips then. Pro tip number 1, being able to duplicate the line with your keyboard shortcuts. So hold down Control, Alt, and down arrow key. Every time you hold Control, Alt, down arrow key, it's copying a line that you're currently on. If you want to move that line somewhere else, hold down Alt and then press the up arrow key. This will move the line around. Very useful. I got one too many on this line, so I'm going to delete a couple. So Control D for delete. Okay. All right. Next pro tip. Let's say I want to refactor. Let's say I want to refactor current piece. Okay, so fancy word for saying in my refactor I could do different things, right? One of the things I could do is rename something. So I'm gonna rename this variable. You can see when I highlight all the ones that are highlighted. While it's highlighted, if I hold down Alt-Shift-R, then I'm in refactor rename mode, and I can go ahead and change this variable to whatever I want, and it'll change wherever it's used. So let's say I say current player. Okay. All right, so that's all set. And if I did that with a method, we would see wherever the method's used, it will also rename it. Not just in this file, wherever the method's used. So throughout my whole application in this, inside of this project here, this tic-tac-toe project. So if I do that, I can see it gets renamed. Okay, so let's say I'm working in a really big file, and I want to know where this application is defined. I could hit F3, and that will take me to the location of where it's defined. Let's say I want to search my Eclipse workspace for a specific class. I can press Control-Shift-T to search for that class. Tic-tac-toe, there it is. Or binary search, or binary arithmetic, binary codec. And if you don't have that source code file on your system, it just won't show in the search result. So tic-tac-toe, there it is. Okay, the next thing is, what if you want to search for resource files? Resource files are your files that are like your text files, CSV files, image files. Control Shift R, and that's going to let me search for my resource files, database.csv. Okay. All right, so there's some quick Eclipse pro tips that you can use, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Make sure to like and subscribe and ask any comments below.